このディオとディオに歯向かってくるとは身の程を教えてやろう。お前の恐竜と私の D4C があれ数的な有利を作れるというわけか。Open the game!
Alright, so it's been quite a while since I've done an episode of Standoff, so I thought I would return with a matchup that I know a lot of you guys have been waiting for. And of course, this is Dio versus Diego. Well, you might be asking which Dio versus which Diego. Well, I mean, we could have this Dio against this Diego, or this Dio and this Diego, or maybe even this Dio and this Diego. But all memes aside, there are a lot of iterations of Dio throughout JoJo, and the ones we'll be talking about today are Phantom Blood Dio Brando and Steel Ball Run Scary Monsters Diego. I decided that this would be the most fair and thought-provoking matchup considering they both have the ability to create and control subordinates in the form of zombies and dinosaurs respectively, and they each have their own inhuman-like characteristics. As for the other Dios, they would make for a pretty lame matchup to be honest. I mean, Part 3 Dio and Alternate Universe Diego, they have the same exact stand being the world. The only difference is that AU Diego can only stop time for 5 seconds because he is not a vampire, unlike Part 3 Dio, who has had his stand for over 100 years and has had the ability to learn and grow his stand throughout those years, and also get sustained in the frozen time because he's an immortal, which allowed him to stop time for a maximum of about 10 seconds. So back onto Dio Brando and Scary Monsters Diego, we are going to be analyzing these two characters, looking at their different powers and abilities, and then comparing them to decide which character is superior. I usually say stand there, well, because this is standoff, but as we all know, Phantom Blood Dio does not have his stand yet, but since his vampiric abilities are so powerful, he should be able to hold up just fine in this matchup. So to start off, the first character we are going to be analyzing is Dio Brando. So as we all know, Dio Brando is an egotistical piece of shit who was born naturally evil with sociopathic tendencies. Early in his life, he was transformed into a vampire by the stone mask which was developed ages ago by the Pillarmen Cars, which eventually found its way to the Joestars. Dio's transformation into a vampire came with some pretty powerful abilities, such as a massive enhancement to his strength, speed, and senses, which would be non-achievable by any human. His enhanced strength allowed him to almost defy gravity as he was able to walk up walls vertically, and his speed, ironically enough described by Speedwagon, said he was as fast as a cheetah, which is probably bullshit, but he's still pretty fast. And as for enhanced senses, Dio was able to hear heartbeats from a few meters away. And of course, he also has the ability to regenerate. To measure the speed of the regeneration, Dio was able to regenerate his muscle and flesh faster than fire was able to burn it, and he was also able to survive after being shot in the head and could also survive as just a head, without a body or anything. Some of Dio's more memorable abilities was his space-splitting eye-spiked surprise. This ability allowed Dio to pressurize bodily liquid into his eyeballs and then create small openings in his pupils, which would eventually unleash 2 fluid jets powerful enough to slice through stone. He also has his vaporizing freezing technique. This ability enables Dio to freeze his own body parts and then transfer them to other objects such as another person. It is also able to cancel out the ripple by freezing the blood in the user's body. He often uses this to freeze people and then shattering them, which would obviously kill them. And just to add on all of his other abilities, he has other things like creating spores that he can put inside people to make them zombies, and he also can use them to kind of manipulate and hypnotize people, like we saw in Stardust Crusaders, how Dio would implant the spores in people's foreheads. And also over time in part 4, we saw that the Nijimura father, as described by Keicho Nijimura, that he was implanted with one of Dio's spores, and since he had Dio's cells inside him after Dio died, he eventually turned into like this green animalistic object, which was pretty ugly. And I'm assuming that that's what happened to all of the other surviving stand users from Stardust Crusaders. They're still living people, but they just look a little fucked up. He's also able to fuse things together for some reason. He can create half man, half human beasts, and he can also heal other people's wounds as well. Like we saw in part 6, for some odd reason, Dio was able to heal Poochie's foot, which was defective by birth, and he turned it into a normal foot because I guess Dio can do that. So now that we've looked at what Dio is capable of and all of his different powers and abilities, we can look at what his subordinates can do, and those are his zombies. So zombies are the least powerful out of all the immortals. Of course, the Pillarmen are the most powerful, and then come vampires, and then on the bottom are zombies. But zombies are still quite powerful with their enhanced physical strength and speed. The majority of zombies base their methods of attack on their lives as humans, making each one unique and unpredictable. Like one of the zombies we saw in Phantom Blood being Jack the Ripper, who based his attack methods off his murders. And zombies Zombies are also known for having a rotten stench and a monster-like appearance. And to turn someone into a zombie, all you have to do is have a vampire infect them, and the way this works is that a vampire just has to suck a regular human's blood, and then that infects that person and turns them into a zombie. And when they're a zombie, they no longer feel pain, so they can take quite a beating, and the most efficient way of killing them is by using the ripple or hamon. Because they feel no pain, just having regular physical attacks really won't affect them unless you just completely destroy their bodies. Okay, so now that we've analyzed Dio and all of his different vampire abilities, as well as his zombies, we can move on to everyone's favorite lizard man husbando, Diego Brando. So Diego is similar to Dio, granted they are the alternate universe version of each other, but Diego isn't naturally evil. He was actually a good-natured child whose upbringing led him to have similarities with Dio. Diego was raised by his mother who loved him and taught him to keep his dignity even in the most dire of situations. Diego and his mother lived a very poor life, which eventually led to Diego's hatred and Dio-like behavior because he was mad at the world for being unbalanced, where his mother, someone who was so kind, was treated so poorly. As for Diego's abilities, he's a stand user. Well, he's kind of a stand user. The stand Scary Monsters was transferred to Diego from the original user, Dr. Ferdinand, after he implanted the left eye of the Holy Corpse in his body. The stand Scary Monsters allows its user to transform into a dinosaur, specifically a Utahraptor. As for its appearance, it varies. The stand is bound to Diego's body, so he can change the amount of dinosaur-like features he has, whether he completely wants to turn into a raptor with Dio written all over his body, or he can just transform the back of him into himself having a tail, or maybe even his hands to have like dinosaur-like claws. So now onto the stand's main abilities. It's almost like a virus type stand, as it infects people, and it's theorized that it can infect an unlimited amount of people, and all it takes to infect someone is just to scratch them or bite them. And if Dio scratched someone and turned them into a dinosaur, that person transformed into a dinosaur has the ability to infect other people, so you can see that this can kind of snowball out of control if he infects a large amount of people. The stand also seems to have no limits in terms of range, but if the stand user, being Diego, is severely damaged, then the effect will disappear and everyone will turn back into normal humans and de-transform. Diego often uses this ability to create miniature dino armies made out of animals, like he can turn rodents and birds and I think maybe even insects into dinosaurs. Granted, the dinosaur will only be about as large as what the original animal was. And Diego will also turn his horse Silver Bullet into a dinosaur on occasion and just give it dinosaur-like features so it can climb walls. And like I mentioned before, Diego can morph his body, which gives him dino-like abilities while still being in his normal body state. He is granted enhanced stamina, speed, strength, vision, as well as the ability to eat anything. Diego's enhancements far surpass the ones of the vampires such as Dio that we saw in Phantom Blood. And because the stand Scary Monsters is bound to Diego, Diego is able to fight stands hand to hand and inflict physical damage on either the stand user or the stand. Diego can also alter the being that has been transformed by his stand to a fossilized state, making them extremely hard. This can also be used in many ways, like fusing things together while in their fossilized state, or turning them into objects used for utility. So Scary Monsters has a lot of abilities. It can be quite versatile. And lastly, we have Scary Monsters stand stats. It has a B in destructive power, B in speed, D in range, A in durability, C in precision, and B in development potential. Honestly, these stats don't make a lot of sense, but whatever. Okay, so now that we've analyzed both of these Dios, we can compare the two. So when it comes to their physical enhancements, Diego is far superior than Dio when it comes to strength, speed, senses, stamina, and pretty much everything. But Dio, on the other hand, is an immortal vampire that can sustain fatal blows and regenerate at incredible rates. Also, when Dio infects people and they become zombies, they are under his control and will not change back to regular humans once Dio is injured or defeated. They will stay that way until they're killed, and they are not easily killed. The zombies are also just as easy to create as Diego's dinosaurs are. I mean, Diego has to scratch or bite a person, and all Dio has to do is bite them and just suck their blood a little bit. So I would say that Dio's army of zombies really outclasses Diego's army of dinosaurs. Okay, so far in this comparison, Diego is far superior than Dio in physical abilities, but Dio has far superior subordinates. Next, I think we should look at the weaknesses, starting with Dio and the fact that he is a vampire. The sun will kill him. he's a vampire. And that is a pretty big weakness, but it's really his only weakness. As for Diego, he is still a normal human to extent, and he has the normal anatomy of a human, and has no way to heal himself by his own means, or any sort of regeneration. And there is no way that Diego is as durable as Dio. So we could spend all day going back and forth with their abilities, saying this is better than this is better than this, but to conclude this matchup, I would have to say that Dio Brando with his army of zombies are far superior than Diego Brando and his army of dinosaurs. Maybe not far superior, but they're definitely better. Reasons being, Dio is a vampire. He has incredible regeneration and is incredibly durable. And his only weakness is sunlight. Quick fix to that, don't go outside during the day and operate during the night. Problem solved. And Diego not having any way to heal himself or any means of regeneration is really the only reason why he falls so short. And it is kind of unfair to match up really like Pillar Men and vampires to any other non-Pillar Men or vampire character, because usually there's only one healer in every single part of JoJo, and these characters that are immortals are just their own healers. But it was still interesting to see how a character from the first part of JoJo had so many similarities to another character so many years later in the 7th part. Obviously, they're gonna have similarities because they're alternate universe versions of each other, but I'm talking about in the sense of their abilities. Both having the ability of enhanced characteristics, and also being able to create an army based off their ability. So that was today's episode of Standoff, Phantom Blood Dio versus Scary Monsters Diego. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I want to know what you guys think. There will be a card in the top right where you guys can vote on who you think would win this matchup. And be sure to like this video if I fought your boredom, and subscribe for more JoJo videos. And as always, in the comment section below, you guys can leave your requests for future episodes of Standoff. Thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed.